if they're not entrepreneurs, like, oh, what a coach is for.
Yeah.
Well, coaches can completely change your life, 1,000,000% if you allow it.
Yeah.
And, if you think of it, it makes sense because you have someone who deals with your money. You have an accountant, you have a personal trainer, you have someone for everything else.
Right.
Why not have someone for that too?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Hey everybody, like what you see, Luxe Life with Candice Bar or any of the Luxe Media Studios shows, make sure you subscribe and click the like below.
Everybody, welcome to Luxe Life. I'm your host, Candice Bar, and we are so excited for today. We've been waiting for this interview, and as you can see, we're not in studio, but we're at the beautiful office of Christophe Choo. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. This is my first interview in my new office.
Oh,
so
wow, I love that.
You're inaugurating the space with your show, which is fun.
Like I said, we're so excited. So on the show, we typically interview celebrities and entrepreneurs.
Got it.
And you're quite the entrepreneur.
Well, thank you.
And we talked a little bit before the interview.
Yes.
And you are a huge real estate mogul.
Well, thank you. They call me the OG. I didn't know what that meant at first. I thought it meant old goat. But they called me, and I'm like, I said, what does that mean? I texted my wife. I said, what is OG? And then I said, what's OG? Oh, original gangster.
Yes.
So I thought it was old goat.
I'm gonna get you a little plate that says OG.
Exactly.
So you like I said, you've been in real estate for a really long time.
Yeah, 33 years.
33 years. And it's not an easy industry to be in.
Oh, absolutely not.
So I like to start from the beginning for everyone, because the beginning is always the best place to start.
The story.
I love the story. I love the journey. I love what's going on. You've built up quite an empire, I would say. But it all starts somewhere.
Yes.
So let's start from the beginning.
And I think people like stories because it helps them relate to their own lives.
Yes.
So humble beginnings. I was born and raised in Echo Park area initially in Los Angeles. My mom was a hairdresser. My parents got divorced when I was 3. Korean father from South Korea that came here to LA to help start Koreatown. My mom was a hairdresser, came here in the early 60s. They met, got married, divorced when I was 3. Then we moved to Los Feliz. I always had a vision in my mind, and being half French and half Korean, I was fortunate enough that every summer I would travel to France to visit relatives for the whole summer. So I was able to be exposed to things. But at a very early age, I had dreams and visions of luxury. I mean, I was in France at 6 years old the first time. I saw castles and chateaus, and I'm like, wow, I'd never saw stuff like that.
Beautiful.
So I'm like, I'm in Paris, of course, everything's so luxurious, and the clothing and the shops. So I'm like, I like this, but my parents weren't of the nature to be able to afford that.
Yes.
So starting at 12, my mom had her hair salon. I would go on Saturday mornings to help her. And she had a crazy work ethic. I mean, she was at the shop every morning at 6 a.m., right? On her feet all day long, working hard. I would have to massage her legs at night because she'd be up. So go to the beauty shop. I'd sweep the floors, serve the ladies coffee and donuts, and
wash the hair.
Wash the hair sometimes. Yep. Things you could do unlicensed.
Yes.
And one of my mom's customers wanted her apartment cleaned. So, and part of the thing was at home, my mom didn't have a housekeeper, so we'd have to clean the house on Saturdays, my sister and I. So I'm like, great. And the woman's like, well, I'll pay you $60. This is in the 70s to come clean my apartment. So I'm like, so she would leave at 8 o'clock from the salon, take me to her apartment. She had shag carpets. Remember the 70s?
Yes.
And she had 2 Persian cats.
Okay.
And I was highly allergic.
Oh, no.
So I'm there for 2.5, 3 hours. Suffering, sneezing, runny eyes, everything. But I made $60.
Yes.
So 12, I started that. Then I worked at Valley Parking when I was 16. I worked at Dupar's. I worked at the Hollywood Bowl. I worked at a bar restaurant in France. Lots of different jobs. Around 16-ish, I was discovered on Sunset Boulevard at a restaurant by a modeling agent who says you should be a model. I'd always kind of wanted to, but never did anything about it. Right. So started modeling, 16, 17, 18, and I was traveling quite a bit. And my wife now of 30 years, I just turned 18 and got back from being gone for 3 months. And she says, you need a more stable job. And I'm like, well, what'd you have in mind? She says, how about real estate? So at young and dumb at 18, I thought, I can drive a fancy car. I can show pretty houses. I can be my own boss and I can make lots of money.
Yeah. All sounds good.
Yeah. I didn't realize what was involved in real estate. Real work. But I got my license. I wanted to work in Los Feliz. It was an office in Los Feliz, very close to, I was still living at home with my parents. And I went to interview with the manager. And one of the things she said, "What's your goal?" I said, "I want to make $1 million a year and drive a Rolls Royce."
Mm.
Well, she didn't say as much, but she says, "I don't think you're the right fit for the office." So I was kind of devastated.
Mm.
So I went to the next closest office, which was in Hancock Park. The manager hired me, started working, doing all the traditional open houses and things like that. But 1 year in, I only did one sale. It was a $43,000 co-op, made $1,700, probably spent $6,000 starting the business. Right. And then the manager said to me, "Christophe, you've been here for a year, and you've got 90 days to do some business, or we're going to have you leave the office." I'm like, "Oh, shoot." So I went to a conference. I believe in education. I learned how to prospect expired listings and for sale by owners. So I started that and started building business, because at 18, nobody I knew was going to buy or sell.
Right.
So I had to just go to people that already tried to sell, didn't have success, and I could show them what I could do. And that's kind of how it started. Now, it's 33 years ago. So that's how it began.
You said two key points in the beginning that I do want to touch on. One, it sounds like early in life, you realized the importance of money.
Yes.
And because your mom, I would say, were you raised with your mom?
My mom and stepfather.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And then two, the importance of dreaming.
Oh, yeah.
And dreaming big.
Yep.
I love the answer. You're like, "I want to make $1 million and drive a Rolls Royce."
Yep.
At such a young age, because a lot of people, even nowadays, won't dream that big.
Yeah.
Or think that's even attainable.
Right.
What made you think that was possible?
Well, I always instinctively wanted that lifestyle.
Yes.
I remember one of my mom's customers gave me a book when I was very young about castles in France. And I remember looking at that book all the time and just dreaming of living in a castle one day. I know, silly things a kid does, but I always had dreams. And when I was young, my parents didn't have a lot of money, but I just wanted that lifestyle.
Yes.
And, but my parents couldn't offer it to me. So that's why I started having jobs. And when I was 16, actually before 16, I couldn't afford to buy expensive clothes. So we'd go to the Goodwill, Salvation Army, St. Vincent de Paul. I'd buy used clothes, but I had really expensive, like Armani suits.
Really expensive used clothes.
Used clothes,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I didn't really care. I mean, I looked good.
As long as it was
They had to be great quality and designers.
Yes.
And so, so I just started working. And when I started working at 16 legally, I would work all week long to go to like fancy restaurants, and I would ditch school in high school. And I went to, even though I lived in Los Feliz, I went to Cleveland High School in Reseda. It was a highly gifted magnet program, but I ditched a lot. And we'd go to school, I'd pick up my friends, we'd come to Beverly Hills, we'd go to like a restaurant, the fancy restaurants in the 80s. And we go shopping, and I go to the skincare salon. I had a Tibion in the day. So Vera Cantor, who owns a skin salon in my building now, she's been my skin care therapist since I was 16. Wow. Yeah, so I guess I always had the vision and the dream.
Wow.
And at one of these used stores at 15, I think, I found a book by Catherine Ponder.
I love Catherine Ponder.
Oh, that book changed my life.
Yes.
I think it was The Power of Prosperity was the book.
Yes.
And I started reading this book, and it talked about writing down your goals and creating the vision. And my parents were wonderful, but they didn't know about that kind of stuff. They didn't teach me that stuff. So this book, which I still have to this day, started me on the path of manifesting what I wanted. And one of them was creating your perfect spouse, right? So I wrote everything down I wanted in a wife. And my wife now of 30 years, the only thing she wasn't a 6 foot tall blonde. She was a 4'11" brunette. And she didn't cook and she didn't clean. But I got everything else on the list. So yeah, that Catherine.
You can hire out for that.
Yeah, which we do. So that Catherine Ponder book, again, I instinctively wanted that kind of life. I was exposed to a certain level, and I then found books and things that opened my eyes to how to achieve that. And that's how it started.
So being in the real estate industry for such a long time, as an entrepreneur, as someone, I love the word hustling. I don't think hustling is a bad word. I love the word hustling. As someone who's consistently hustling, what have you learned throughout that experience of having big wins and having a lot of, I don't believe in the word failure, I believe in the word learning lessons?
Well, failure is exactly an opportunity to learn. Yeah, and I see real estate's like a roller coaster. I mean, most businesses are if you own a business. Yeah. I mean, you start here and then you're, this certain great opportunity, and then, this one goes down.
Yes.
So it's like this all day long. So I embrace the highs, I embrace the lows. I learn from the failures, quote unquote, or the things that don't manifest the way you expect them to. And my wife's very good at helping with that. You really, really want something and you don't get it. and you're like, oh, you get disappointed and discouraged. But most people, they get caught up in that. They get caught up in that fear, worry, upsetment, whatever. I try to, it depends on the day, but I try to quickly like put it away. Anthony Robbins taught me this years ago. You take all your fears and emotions, put them in like a visual box, and like, I can't handle this right now. Like, put it all in this box, and then we put the box over here on the floor. Let me focus on what I can do. So, because otherwise, most people just get caught up in the worries and the fears, and they
hamster
live that.
wheel of the fear.
Oh yeah.
And that can kill you. But if you focus on the results instead of the current reality, you will win.
And I do a couple things every morning. I mean, you see things on my wall. First thing, every morning I have an affirmation partner. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, we do 10, 15 minutes of affirmations to each other on the phone, you know, sharing our things. And then we do our gratitudes. We talk about what we're grateful for. And there's always something to be grateful for. And then I write down my gratitudes. I write down the 10 things I want to release from my mind or worries, because we all have worries and fears. So I'm like, okay, write this one down. And at first I'm like, why would I write them down? I'm manifesting it. But my coach said to me, no, you're taking it out of your mind, putting it on paper. And now what I do is I burn the paper.
I was just going to say you should burn it.
We're on the same mind. So I take the paper, I'll burn it, and I just visualize that all that's just going away. And then I focus on the 10 things I intend for that day. Being happy, having fun, helping people,
being
all that
healthy.
Stuff. No, being healthy is one of the top ones. Gratitude for health every single day.
I love that. So I know you said you got a book from Catherine Ponder, and that kind of led you on your journey. We always talk about on this show the importance of coaches.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a coach? Have you had different coaches throughout your life?
So I've had a coach consistently since I was 21 years old. So how many years is that? A lot. 2. So I worked with 2 coaching companies, but I've had a coach. We talk once a week on our coaching call. We go to programs together every 3-4 months with, you know, sometimes it's 1,000 people, 500 people, 12 people, or 6,000 people. But I absolutely believe in coaching, and it's mostly geared to real estate, but it's really kind of life coaching. So we don't just talk real estate. We talk about how to be healthy, how to train your mind, how to do certain things in business. So absolutely coaching. You look at the most successful, especially athletes, a lot of them have 3 or 4 different coaches. Actors have acting coaches, voice coaches. I mean, why not do that? It
only makes sense because, you know, people, if they're not entrepreneurs, like, oh, what are coaches for? Well, coaches can completely change your life 1,000,000% if you allow it. And, you know, if you think of it, it makes sense because you have someone who deals with your money. You have an accountant. You have someone you have a personal trainer. You have someone for everything else. Why not have someone for that too? It makes sense.
I remember when I was first starting coaching, I was going to this conference, and I would see all the top producers. And this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I remember the top producers at that time were making like $1.52 million a year. I'm like, wow. And they were all involved in the coaching. And the coaching was $1,000 a month in those days. But I just and I maybe made $40,000 that particular year. I'm like, oh, geez, $1,000 a month. That's like $12,000. But I instinctively knew, just without even worrying about it, I thought, I will make 10 times this investment from the coaching. And I signed up, and I was actually worried if my credit card would go through for the first $1,000 fee, but it did. And so I've been literally coaching nonstop since 1990, essentially 1991. Absolutely, I believe in that.
I agree with you 1,000,000%. I don't believe that people can really be successful without having some sort of coach in their life.
We all need a support system. Whatever that is to you. Whether it's your family, your loved ones, your kids, your dogs, your cats. Your coaches, we all need, or multiple coaches at different levels.
Absolutely.
I have my acupuncture coach, I have my health coach, I have my massage coach. I mean, a lot of coaches.
There is a team keeping this machine going.
That's right. Hey, it's like a car. You need fill-ups, checkups, oil changes.
Maintenance, constant maintenance.
Constant maintenance, yes.
Well, I want to ask you, in the beginning, what was your first major win? What you consider a major win, and how did you celebrate?
Gosh, my first major win. I don't know about a first major win. It's been so long ago. I would say my first big celebratory. I would buy things for myself. You know, when I started making business, I'd buy jewelry, and clothes, real clothes, expensive clothes from the stores, not the Goodwill. Although I think I have a couple things still from the Goodwill from like 30 years ago.
I was gonna say nothing wrong with Goodwill.
No, absolutely not. Hey, I would still go into a Goodwill. I don't, but I would. I think it'd be kind of fun. So I think it was I was 23. My wife and I were getting married, and I had done pretty well that year. It was I'd made like 250,000 in that particular year,
Great.
and we were getting married, and we didn't want to do a big wedding. But I said, let's go on a cruise to Europe for 2 weeks, and then we were going to go to Asia for 2 weeks. So I spent a quarter of my annual income, my gross income, which was not the net income. I learned that later on about gross versus net and taxes.
I think everyone learns later on what that means.
It's like, oh, I'm making lots of money. And I realized you had to pay taxes on that money. State, federal, all that stuff. So we went on this very, very expensive cruise for 2 weeks in the south of France, Italy,
very nice.
Amalfi Coast. We stayed in Rome for like 4 or 5 days, and then Monte Carlo at the end.
Very nice.
And spent a lot of money. But from that one cruise, we met a client that helped start my career in real estate in Beverly Hills when I moved to Beverly Hills. And from that one cruise, we've made over $2.5 million in 30 years from that one cruise.
Amazing.
But I would say that's the first thing I think of, like really a big celebration of my wins of I'd never achieved that level of income so far. So it was really nice to be able to. And I said to my wife, I said, look, I don't mind, working all year long, 11 months to spend 30 days living the lifestyle. And to me, that lifestyle of that cruise, all expenses, I mean, top luxury, first class airfare, best 5-star hotels,
doing it up well.
And I thought, this is what the real world's about. So the work is like kind of like a movie. So that was probably my first big celebration win.
I agree with that. I love that statement, actually. So I know you mentioned you've been married for a long time. That is an accomplishment within itself.
Especially in today's world.
Yes, 1,000,000%. And I know I asked you on the phone, but for everybody else, what's the secret sauce?
People always say that a marriage is 50-50. I think it's 100-100. Look, as human beings, we're never perfect. So if we every day try to give 100% to the other, and they try to give 100, some days you're at 50, some days you're at 70, some days you're at 30, but it's a balance. So I'm there to uplift my wife when she needs it, or support her, and vice versa. There are times where I get discouraged or not really depressed, but discouraged about a deal
thrown
or
off your
something.
course.
Right. And then she helps me realize it's not that important and what we're grateful for and what we have, and to focus myself the other way. So I think if you give 100% or try to give 100% every day, you'll probably almost never hit the mark of 100, but you'll be more than 50. And you have a better chance. And also trying to really listen. We never said a bad word to each other. We don't fight. We sometimes have disagreements about things. But if I'm upset, I just try to cool myself off and just take some time to breathe and do some deep relaxation, and then try to respond and think about it. So I think just caring and understanding. Being very mindful.
I love that.
Most people it's normal to like instantly react to things. Just it's an automatic physical response, but you have to be cognitive of that and decide how you want to respond, not just let your body respond.
Very smart. I like that. And it's interesting when you talk about like highs and lows, because as humans, we've been through lows before, and we tend to forget we were in lows before, and then we get out of it and things go high again. You've been through things before.
Absolutely.
You're still here. It's going to be okay. Like even at that moment when it may not feel okay, it's going to be okay. Depending on how you decide to think.
So as an example of that, in 2006, I was coaching with Tom Ferry, my coach today, and I'd gone 4 months, first time in my career, without an actual closing. So, my monthly expenses are pretty high, so I kept spending money every month, and there was no cash flow coming in, and all the cash was going out. And I started almost getting depressed, but I remember thinking to myself, I felt like I was like in like a vortex, being sucked down, like a spiral down. And I'd be on the phone with my coach every week. I'd come to work every day, and I said, why am I wasting my time coming to work? I said, it's been 3-4 months. I haven't made a deal. I might as well have just stayed home. I was like, no, you got to go to work every day. You got to put in the energy. I was like, no, you got to go to work. And magically, at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, it's been 4 months, not a single sale.
Sunday morning,
I'm at the office, which I'm at every day. And the cell phones weren't really used as much in those. So my office phone rang. I picked up. A friend of ours said, we want to sell our house. And I'd been to the house. And would you come tomorrow morning? And I went the next morning. I listed the house for $30 million. This is today, it'd be 70 million, 75. And so I had this wonderful listing in my hand, and he agreed to pay me $1 million commission to sell the house, which I asked for 6%. He's like, I'm only paying you $1 million to sell this house. I'm like, scratched out 6, I put $1 million. That was fine. and then all of a sudden I'm like, I've got this amazing listing, but I don't have the money to market it. But my company fortunately supported me, and we ended up selling the house.
Beautiful.
But again, my coach kept saying, keep doing it. The energy will come back to you. And sometimes like you work really, really, really hard in a deal and it just falls apart or you don't get it. And you're like, oh, but you know, what do they say? When one door closes, another bigger, better door opens. So I have to just like, okay, that's not what I expected, but something else will fall magically from the sky,
and it did.
or will manifest from all the things I do to manifest. And it does, but we never know when. And
I like how, you know, you did, even though you may have been nervous and a bit of fear seeping in and all the emotions, all the things, the action, you did the action of the work. You still came, you still showed up. Despite how you were feeling. And that's the point of it. You show up anyway.
Well, I'm not the kind of person I can sit at home and watch TV and be depressed. I mean,
eating Cheetos.
No. I gotta be in activity, trying to help people, doing things. If nothing else, is educating myself. You know, that's so. Yeah, you got to be in action, moving forward, and not wallowing in whatever the drama or upsetting is.
I love that. What advice would you give? Because there's a lot of realtors in this town.
Oh yeah. We have 10,000 realtors on my street.
Wow.
Yeah. This office here I'm in, we have 330 realtors. But I think there are like 20 real estate offices on this block. I think that I remember calculating, it was like almost 10,000 agents.
My goodness.
Right. Within a block or two.
That's just in this vicinity. How do you stay relevant?
Always educating myself. I'm innovative. I try to do things differently. I was one of the first agents to do videos for real estate marketing in 2006 is when I started that. When I got that $30 million listing. Because a couple TV shows wanted to film the listing with me, you know, doing a tour. I'm like, I can do my own videos, right? And then I started my YouTube channel in 2007 when Google bought YouTube. We have now like 36,000 subscribers.
Amazing.
And I think we have, I don't know, 2,200 videos on there and millions and millions and tens of millions of views.
Amazing.
So if I see a concept I like and find interesting, I'll test it and try it. Test and try it and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, just scrap it. If it works, you keep going with it.
I love that.
But you still got to keep retooling and changing all the time. I mean, all the time.
Would you say that a lot of your business now, from building it up for so long, is mostly referrals?
Mostly. I'd say 50. We did our numbers for last year. 50% was past clients in Sphere, people I know. The other 50% was agent referrals. I'm well known in the industry. I do a lot of podcasts and interviews. I have my own podcasts and I have a lot of videos. And I'm a speaker at a lot of the real estate events, helping in different levels of speaking. And so when you're on stage in front of 6,000 or 10,000 people or 1,000 people, you're noticed and people remember you. And now with social media, they can follow you and see you consistently. And versus just being one in a crowd where no one's going to remember you in most cases. Now, with things are changing so dramatically. That's why I do go to so much training because, nowadays with TikToks and Reels and AI and all this stuff. At first I'm like, what the heck is this? And another thing, like even this morning, I'm in my car listening to a couple podcasts about tweaks to Google business profiles and your Yelp reviews and this. And I'm like, oh, geez, I thought, 10 more things to add to my list of 100 things to do. So, but I thrive on, I'm kind of hyper. So I kind of thrive on lots of things. I think a lot of people get caught up in like too many things. So they have analysis paralysis. They just don't do anything. I have a lot of things and I go on it. And then I really go hard on it and like accomplish it.
And what I always do, I don't know if you do this too, but if I don't know something, I don't know a lot of things. I'm really great at the thing that I do. And I hire out for the rest of it.
Exactly.
Hire out. That's how you grow. You have to hire. You can't do everything yourself.
Well, sometimes successful people are control freaks. I'm a control freak.
That I do know.
So I was just telling my assistant yesterday, I said, you've been with me now for 5 months. I said, you probably know that I'm a control freak. I said, but now I really trust you and you can do things sometimes quicker, better, easier than I do. So I have to let go.
Yes, I just have to make sure that you can do the thing the way that I like it done.
Right.
And then I can let go. Yes.
So I have to let go and let her grow and flourish.
Yes.
And nothing's in real estate, I mean, I handle the contracts and that's different. But just the marketing and all that. She can prepare it, do a draft. It's not perfect. I'm not perfect. We tweak it. And then, so instead of me like wasting my time on things that aren't going to bring me income. That income, I can't have staff and I can't live a nice life. I can't give back to the community, all that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. I love talking about philanthropy and giving back. How important is that to you? And how often do you do it?
Extremely important. So back around 20 years ago, our friend from the White House who gave me that sign called me up and said, have you ever thought of being on a board, a charity board? I said, no. I said, what does that entail? I said, well, it's X, Y, and Z. And he said, there's a homeless shelter for youth in Hollywood called Covenant House. And Covenant House, I'm still part of Covenant House, California. But Covenant House is in, I think, every state in the United States, and it's international. Basically, they help youth off the streets, you know, get food, shelter, medical care, all that stuff to start with, safe place to live, temporary shelter, then it becomes shared apartments. So that basically from off the streets today, in 12 months, 18 months, a couple of years, they can have a full-time job, have their own apartment, have money saved, and they can contribute back to the community. So when I was offered that, I went to interview to be a board member, and they asked me to join. And I thought before that, I was working with the I Have a Dream Foundation, but as a mentor one-on-one. And that was very, very wonderful. And I helped this one young man named Travis Davis, who today we're still friends, was having a tough time in school, not doing so well. He was from a rough environment, Pasadena, but that was the start. But then when I was invited to Covenant House, I said, okay, I can be on a board and help thousands of kids instead of just one-on-one, which I really enjoyed that, but I could help on a much bigger scale. So I joined the board. I said, you joined the board, you got 2 tasks right away. I said, oh, okay. Number 1, we want you to be the gala chair for the gala this year, which was, 1,000 people, whatever. I'd never been host or chair of a gala before. And then number 2, we need you to help help us open a shelter in Oakland, find us a location and all that stuff. So I was gala chairman. Took 12 months to do that. Took 30% of my day every day, even though I had a committee, just doing that. But I learned from doing, and had a very successful gala. We raised $480,000 that night, which was the highest I'd ever raised at that point. And I got Sharon Osborne to be our honoree. I knew her, just so that was fun. And then when it came to buying the shelter, I'd refer them to an agent in Oakland, and the head of the president of Covenant House said, I've been working with this guy for 6 months. He's just not really finding us anything. We really need you to get involved. I said, look, I'm licensed account, but I'm not licensed I don't know Oakland. I said, look, let's book a flight. Let me pull up some properties and let's go look.
Believing Before Seeing, a new bestseller by Candice Bar. Order your copy today.
We went up there for the day. We looked around. We walked into this one building at Jack London Square. The time I could see development starting in that area, but it was a very rough area. A lot of homeless people. The kids were in a old abandoned church was the shelter. Like the main church was like cots in the church. So I'm like, this is not good. But I walked in this space and it had 14. It was Jerry Brown's commune. You remember Jerry Brown, the former governor?
Yes.
It was his building, and it was like beautiful entrance with like 12 bedrooms around, 2 stories, and there was a separate auditorium, and it was literally on the corner of Jack London Square. And I said, "This is the place." And it was. I literally walked in the door and said, "This is the place."
Feel like?
And George Lozano, he agreed. So we went back to LA. We convinced the board. It was $3.5 million. We did a capital campaign to buy it, the capital campaign to fix it, and we got the shelter, and it's now up there. So I'm still involved with Covenant House. We do a sleep out every year. This year was my 10th, where we literally sleep on the street of Hollywood to raise money for homeless youth. So the first year we did it, we're like 12 of us. This year, I think we're 120. And this year we raised just under $1 million from that one sleep out, because I now have teams. I have a little team, and everyone has their little teams. And then we solicit funds from everyone. And I did it particularly because I thought, okay, they see this bougie Beverly Hills broker with all the diamonds and flash, but he's willing to go sleep on the street of Hollywood with a cardboard box and a sleeping bag in the rain.
How is that experience? I'd like to walk me through that experience.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. But it's only one night, and these kids do it all the time. And I've met many of the kids, and I've done fundraisers at the properties I have. I'll have a beautiful listing, and I'll invite my best clients and say, okay, you got to come. You got to spend $100 a donation, buy a gift card at the door for the kids, or minimum. And I host the party, like cocktails and champagne at a really beautiful, $30-40 million house, and they'll come. So it's very humbling.
Yes.
It made me so much. I'm already appreciative and grateful, but so much more appreciative. I mean, you can't really sleep on the street. First of all, you've got the cold cement of the sidewalk.
You have people walking by.
Yep. And then the cardboard box, which doesn't really keep you from the cold. sleeping bag. And when it rains, you can, if you're lucky enough to find a plastic to cover yourself, but it's very hard. You can't sleep because, especially in Hollywood, all night long you hear people screaming, and you hear sirens, and you hear helicopters, and
you don't know something's going to happen to you.
Right.
Right.
Nowadays we have security guards that watch over us, which is better. But last year, some guy like 3 o'clock in the morning come walking in, the security had to stop him. You know, so it's scary, it's frightening. But now I've got friends that, and you talk to people, sit down together, and you share the cause. But I'll say usually the next day I take off because I get home at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm exhausted and tired. So I take a hot shower and I like put my mask on and sleep for 5 hours. So, but it's humbling, it's exhausting, but it's you get to see what they go the value
their day to
it does for them. And I've seen youth that I met, originally years ago that are now working at Covenant House as employees or have great jobs and are so thankful to what all of us and the donors have done to help. And I thought to myself, I had a wonderful mom and stepfather, but my stepfather and I didn't get along. We were like oil and water. He wanted me to go a certain way, and he's like, you need to wear jeans and tennis shoes and T-shirts and work bagging groceries at the supermarket. Well, I didn't mind cleaning apartments, but I didn't want him to tell me. I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to wear T-shirts and jeans. So I didn't have a lot of support from adults.
He wanted you to be like a regular kid.
Exactly, and I was not. Even though I was in a regular family. So my junior high school yearbook teacher helped, what's the word, expose me. I was the yearbook editor for the yearbook, and she was an artist, and she was very cool. Her name was Vivi Watala. She just passed away last year at 90. And she had all these magazines. I never like W Magazine and all these Italian fashion magazines. So I'd sit in the room and I'd look at all these magazines. I'm like, wow, look at all this stuff. And I just learned, I don't know, what was that related to? The homeless. I'm trying to think.
Your stepfather wanted you to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So she supported me and believed in me. One of my teachers in high school, my French teacher, I got D's in French even though I spoke French because I didn't want to study. And excuse me, sneeze. Excuse me.
Bless you.
So she said to me, you're not doing well in class, but I'm not worried about you. You're going to be a huge success in life. So just those two people that believed in me. Because my stepfather, God bless his soul, he did the best he could. Everybody's like, you're no good. You're not going to succeed. You're a failure.
Actually,
constant negativity.
I've talked to a lot of people about their upbringings, and it's always different upbringings and all that. And at the time, example, when something like that is happening, at the time it doesn't feel great, and you can carry it with you in a negative way. But for some people, and I feel like you might be one of them, it fuels them. To do better.
I don't think I'd be successful where I am today if it wasn't for him. Because especially when I started ditching school and like, you're going to have to go to reform school. I mean, I didn't do any drugs. I didn't drink any alcohol, nothing like that. I just did school. And
it wasn't for you.
And I remember one time I did school and went to the skincare salon and to lunch at Excelsior restaurant in Beverly Hill, or Ma Maison back in the day. Every week I'd go like Ma Maison or one of the expensive restaurants. And I got home and my stepfather said to me, so how was school today? Oh, it was great. Really? I said, what did you learn? I said,
make up something.
He said, well, I got a call today from Ida Tibiant Skincare Salon in Beverly Hills to confirm a facial reservation for Christian Calandre. My name was Christophe Choo, but I had a fake name because I didn't like Christophe Choo. I didn't like the Asian name. So there was the
alias.
There was the Calandre cologne. I forget what. So I said, my name is Christian Calandre. And so I got grounded and took away my car and all something like. But he would always say, "You're no good. You're not." And I would, Friday nights we go to clubs dancing. Okay, we smoked cigarettes and cloves and all that, but no marijuana thing. But he just like, to my mom. My mom would support me. He's like, "Your son's no good. He's going to be a failure." So I remember sitting there and like before going out at night, he'd sit in the living room and he'd like lecture me. He'd always lecture me, like at the dinner table, just lecture me like, "You got to do this. You got to go to college. You got to go to UCLA." I didn't want to go to UCLA. So I'd sit there with my arms crossed, going, and my wife teases me. She says, "If I was your dad, I would have smacked you." Right? He didn't smack me. And but I remember thinking to myself, I'll show you. I think to myself, I'll show you. Who are you to tell me what I'm going to do? Because I thought I'm going to be a huge success. I said, you're making $50,000, $60,000 a year. You're working a job for someone else. I mean, he took care of us nice. We got to travel and all that stuff. But I remember thinking to myself, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Who are you to tell me I can't be successful?
It's the best way to take that too, because some people don't take it that way.
They
And
just they
use it as
internalize
a
and believe it.
crutch. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely.
Oh, well, my life sucks because my parents told me I was bad. Well,
Right.
my mom didn't, but so anyways, that's
Yes.
I took the negativity and turned it into a positive.
Fuel.
But I remember so well thinking, oh, I never said it to him, to his face, but I think, oh, I'll show you. Who are you to tell me that? I said, like, but God bless him. He did the best he can. And, you know, he passed away a few years ago. But after I left and got married, we became very close. And I would send him notes and I thanked him. I said, you know, I know we didn't get along when I was young and you had your way of raising me and I had my own thoughts. I said, but I truly appreciate who you are, what you did for me in every aspect. You were really my father. My father wasn't really my father. He was my father. He did, and he raised me as best he could.
Yeah.
And I said, I am successful today because of how you taught me. And he really, there were times he said to me, and I really appreciated those notes. He was a writer, a very intellectual man. He spoke 7 languages, including Latin.
Wow.
He was very, very, he went to law school. He never decided to take the bar, but he went to law school and graduate school and all this stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, he's telling me what to do. And he went to, 12, 14 years of college and graduate school, but he's working a job as a rare book dealer or whatever. And I thought, okay.
I actually think that's a fascinating job, rare book dealers.
Yeah. I used to go there as a kid sometimes on Saturdays, and this big place. And it was I remember when I was maybe 11, 12, his company and his boss sold one of the original Gutenberg Bibles. And I remember I got to sit there and like watch them like show me the actual Gutenberg Bible with the cloth things, and they sold it to the guy on Honeywell Corporation for like $13 million back in those days. So again, exposure. And I would be in the bookstore and I'd look at the art and I'd look at the books and I'd be like, wow, just think of all of the thousands of years of knowledge in this room and what you can learn from it. So
I think going back to exposure, I think exposure is everything.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you can come into the world from a very wealthy family, but it doesn't mean you're gonna be exposed to things.
Right.
And it can be quite limited.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you were not only exposed to things, but you used it to your advantage.
Yeah. And I like exposure. I like stimulation. I'm very visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So I like to have stimulus. I can't just be sitting with nothing. Yeah.
So now that you've built your company, built your brand, and you have coaches and had coaches, are you now a coach to others?
I don't coach others. I've been asked to coach many times. It's not something I want to do.
Okay.
I do coach in the sense of I'm a speaker, but I don't want to, have a group of 20, 30, 50 people that I'm calling every week to coach. That's not really for me. So I don't, but I don't mind coaching like on a podcast. That's easy. Or I love speaking on stage. Like you can put 10,000 people in front of me and I love to speak. I speak from the heart. I don't ever use a script.
Yes.
I remember one of the talks I did in New York was a huge audience in a theater in New York. I forget which place. And I had 50 minutes solo on stage. So I get backstage before, and I'm meeting with the girl handling it. She says, "Where's your presentation? Where's your laptop?" I said, "I don't have a presentation." She kind of like went like this, and I said to her, "Oh, what's the topic of the conversation?" And she like almost went white, because this was our huge international convention. And she was, she's in charge, and like, oh my God, I just booked this guy for 50 minutes.
She doesn't know what we're talking about.
Right. So she was. How to break in the luxury market. This is like 12, 14 years ago. I said, don't worry about it, Lindsay. I said, let me just go backstage for a minute. Yeah. Went back behind a curtain for a minute. I just closed my eyes. I'm like, how to break into luxury real estate. And I just went on stage. No script, no nothing. I just spoke from the heart to the whole audience. I would like target people and like look at them and talk to them.
Yes.
And to this day, people stop me at the conference that are still in the business from our company and say, I still remember that talk you did in New York and how much it meant to me. And I talked about some stories and they said, oh, the magic jacket. One of the stories. So I coach in a bigger scale, but not individually.
I like how you said that you don't use scripts or anything, because I don't either.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about a topic that in and out, you don't need all those things, because it's like, it's like talking about your life story. Nobody else knows it but you.
Yeah.
So you can't mess up and you can't get it wrong because you're so involved in what you're talking about.
Yes.
So I like to point that out to people, because speaking for a lot of people is terrifying.
Yeah, I understand. It's one of the most terrifying things ever.
Mm-hmm.
It never bothered me. But there are a lot of people that no matter what, they won't speak. Like even like doing videos. Like people say, oh, how do I start my do? Like I'll be at a conference and like, oh, I can't do videos. I'm this and that. And this. I said, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I said, a video is simply you're just like just picture you're talking to a friend or your mother, your client, one-on-one, and this just happens to be a camera there.
Yeah.
It's if you get caught up in the camera, how my hair looks, or sometimes I look terrible in the video, and it is what it is.
And you're the only one who cares about it. Nobody else
Exactly.
cares
Nobody
about
cares.
it. Yes.
They just want the information you're hopefully sharing with them. So,
yes.
Yeah, but it's true. I'm always surprised when people are like afraid to do videos. So like, I'll grab my, okay, he said, we're going to do your first video. And I just, like, give me your phone. So me do the reverse. He said, hey, it's Christophe. I'm here with so-and-so at the conference, and she's doing her first video today. So tell me about yourself. And they talk, and I said, and then we look at it. I'm like, look, there you go. Your first video. I said, and the job is you got to post it online within the next 2-3 days, or you got to send me $200 is whatever I tell them to do. And but it's funny how people are afraid.
I always say with people with their own podcasts and podcasts, I'm like, if you can have a conversation with a human, you can have your own show.
Exactly.
So it's going to be okay.
And when I started videos, before that I was doing, it was the written blog, right? Like we'd go to parties and events and I'd take pictures and I'd write the blog. I was never a writer. Writing is not my thing. Yeah. And it would take me hours to write for a few paragraphs, and I don't like it. And so when the video, I'm like, oh, this is so wonderful. I can just turn on a camera and just start talking. And it was just magical miracle.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. So we're going to wrap up, but we will come back. We're going to interview you again.
Wonderful. I'd love that.
An amazing interview.
Thank you.
What advice would you give newer people coming into the industry first starting out?
Should I look at you or should I look at the camera?
You can look at the camera.
Okay. So my advice to you as a newer person starting the real estate industry, or actually any industry, really, truly educate yourself on the business you're getting involved with. See who's successful in your real estate field or whatever field you want to be in, and follow them, emulate them, copycat them. What R&D? You know, we're always talking about in our group of coaching with all the top agents. We go to conferences 3-4 times a year together with one particular, different groups, and we call R&D, like someone says something and you rip off and was it R&D? Just copy them. Now do it your own way, of course, but copy them and test it and try it, but always be authentic to who you are. So educate yourself consistently. Since I didn't go to college, my car was my college. And when we got married, I was living in South Pasadena, commuting to Hancock Park, which was an hour to an hour and a half each way, depending on traffic. And then to Beverly Hills for a while until we moved to this side of town. But, you know, I would have an hour, hour and a half each way in the car. That was my education. So, I mean, everything from Anthony Robbins to Brian Tracy to Zig Ziglar. I mean,
all the great thought leaders.
Marianne Williamson, all of them. So I would just listen to, I didn't listen to radio or music or don't listen to the news. Don't watch the news. Don't watch CNN. I don't watch the news at all. If anything that major is happening, someone on social media will tell you or they'll call you.
Yes.
Don't get caught up in that negativity. It's just bad. So educate yourself, do affirmations every day, write down your goals. You've got to write down goals. Every day, write down the things you need to release or do a visual or a verbal release of that. I do a creative visualization on my calls before the affirmations where I literally go through from my toes to my ankles and with my friend on the phone where I'm visualizing every blood vessel, every atom of my body vibrating, because, you know, we are all vibrations and sound vibrates and can do a lot of things. So I visualize that. And at the end, all that negative energy is coming up through my body and at the end I said, all that negative energy shoots up through my neck and shoots up my head like steam coming out of a train. And I visualize that. And sometimes I'm outside in the balcony and I'm in the sun, like that steam just instantly evaporates the negativity. And I'm like, now my body is light and free and I can be fresh and full of joy, prosperity, abundance, and health to myself and all those around me. So I got to release what's holding me back. And then I say, okay, now I can give of my energy, because basically business and life is giving of each other's energy. We're always just sharing energy. So, but if you got negative energy or the S kind of energy,
that's blocking your stuff.
It's blocking you. It's blocking everything, and people feel that. You know, when you go to conferences, you meet all sorts of people. Like people come to you and they want to like, oh, can I have lunch with you guys? And I the ones I don't want, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, we can't. But there's other ones I want to be with, right?
Right.
Because like, who wants to be with a Debbie Downer? Or who wants to be with someone that's just
Right.
like, oh,
sucking your energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
We call them energy sucking vampires.
Oh yes.
all
yes.
the time.
It's
and you
real.
can just feel them.
And
like they'll come and like, they just start on a negative thing. I said, oh, I appreciate you asking, but I got to go.
I don't even want nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah.
Even if that's the current reality, don't share that. Nobody wants to hear it.
We have to protect
absolutely
our aura field.
Absolutely.
And every day I see I'm a bubble of light, love, and energy. And I visualize like I'm like walking with like a little bubble around me. And that's just like things can't penetrate
I only
that.
attract goodness. Yeah. Goodness, love, and light.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you listen to Abraham Hicks?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Abraham and Leslie, right?
Leslie.
His wife or partner.
Abraham Hicks is actually it's actually Esther Hicks.
Esther, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah. Got the name.
It's Esther Hicks, but then she channels Abraham.
Oh, I haven't listened to her in a while, so I got to get back to her. But I do. I like her.
Well, like I said, we have to come back because you're a lovely interview.
I love that.
If for some reason they're living under a rock, can you please tell everyone where they can find you?
Okay.
How can they connect with you?
Perfect. So my name is Christophe Choo, like Christopher with the R with no R in the end. So ChristopheChoo. Google me. You'll see pages and pages of me on Google. YouTube is a great place. I have my own YouTube channel under my name. I've got lots of videos, and they're not just real estate videos. They're party videos, travel videos, inspirational videos. It's all sorts of things. And I'm on basically every social media platform you can imagine, from LinkedIn to Twitter to tweet. So like on my social media folder, I've got like 24. I have to just go one by one to do the postings.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'll forget. So I'm basically everywhere online.
They can't miss you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my name is. There's no other Christophe Choo in the world that I know of.
Okay.
Although there's a lot of fake accounts that try to be me. But that's okay. They get taken away too. But this has been great, and I really appreciate you inviting me.
Thank you. There is one question I do ask everyone across the board.
Okay.
One. I think you actually may have answered it, but it might be something else in your mind. When you were on the come up and things were going really well.
I'm still on the come up, by the way.
You're still on the come up. Things are going really well. What was something you were able to get yourself that you always wanted, but never thought you could never actually have? And when you got it, you took the time and took a moment and said, I'm proud of myself.
Well, here's the interesting thing about material possessions, because that's usually what that means. When I was young, didn't have a lot of money. I wanted the material things. When I was young in high school, I wanted a BMW or a Fiat Spider. I wanted a cool car, right? I couldn't afford it, even though I had a couple jobs. My stepfather gave me a used 1971 VW Bug, his car. And it was the original orange paint, like that original orange, like an orange. And he said, I'm giving you this car, but you got to pay for your own insurance and all that stuff. So I got my first Mercedes around 2021. I think probably the first real big thing that I was excited about was I bought my first diamond watch, Cartier watch. I love diamonds. I love love watches.
Yes.
But I had wanted that for so long, and it was a very, very, very expensive watch. And I've subsequently bought quite a few. But the funny thing was, the anticipation probably took me a year or so to earn the money, to save the money to buy it. And when I bought it, maybe about an hour or so or two, I was like, oh my God, look at me. I got this time. I felt really good, right? And then very quickly, that excitement fades. The nature of material things doesn't make you whole.
I was literally just telling Nick that a couple days ago.
Yeah. So
same exact thing.
So then I buy another expensive watch, and I buy like back 27 years, like $5,000 suits and diamond rings and all sorts of, and of course I have a lot of artwork and crystals and I would just buy. And of course I do love my possessions and I do enjoy them, but things can get lost.
Yes.
Things can get stolen.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're wrapped up in this materialism that's really doesn't bring any happiness. Completely unfulfilling.
Now I'm not saying I love beautiful things.
Me too. And I
love
still have it.
Luxury items.
Yes.
Because I like quality and I like the whole story behind everything.
Yeah.
And I do love beautiful things. But
what I do know on being in real estate, that I don't really own anything.
Yes.
I mean, I do quote unquote own things, but they're on loan because we have a lot of artwork in our house and here. I mean, some of these things are 1,000 years old, 2,000 years old. And I always think to myself, like, we have paintings in our house that are quite old. And I think, God, that's 500-year-old painting. I said, I wonder what that painting is seen over the centuries, right?
I always think about this.
I thought one of these days I'm going to do a movie of like the painting through the centuries.
It goes through time. Like it goes to places and goes through time. we can't.
Right. But when I'm gone, guess what? Whether it's my sister, we have no kids, or my nephews,
Yes.
you know, how many times I have clients, their parents passed away and the kids are living all around the country.
Sell it.
And they come to LA for like 2 days.
Mhm.
What do we do with all this stuff? And I say, okay, get this auction house to put this stuff together and do this. But the rest of it, they get a junk man and they just throw all that shit away.
Yes. Like what one thing was to someone super special.
It's nothing to somebody else.
Nothing. Get rid of it.
So I realized that, I mean, I enjoy it and I still get it and I like to have it. But I know what's important to me is love, relationships, and moments with people.
Mm.
When I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be thinking about any of the stuff I bought. I'll be thinking about those special moments in life, those memories, my family, my friends, those fun times.
Yeah.
That's not the rest of it. There's a certain point where you want everything when you're young and you kind of achieve that. And then as you get older, you kind of start getting rid of stuff.
Yes.
Like we moved from our office upstairs, we had a bigger space, lots of things. We got rid of 80% of our stuff, maybe 90%, because it's like, and this is stuff I just been sitting in cabinets.
And you never thought about it again.
Yeah.
After you get rid of it, you
like,
never think I missed this thing because you don't even remember it.
It's like clothing. Every year I get rid of clothing.
Yes.
If you haven't worn it, I think the rule is if you haven't worn it like 9 or 12 months, you got to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I donated to the homeless youth or whatever. Let someone else enjoy it. Because I used to buy the one buying the used clothes.
Yes.
And now someone else can buy the used clothes or get the used clothes. So they have a nice suit to wear for their job interview, which they didn't have.
Yeah, and then they're on their journey.
Yeah, so material things are fun still, and I do enjoy them, but it's not what it's
not the driving
meant to be.
force that it once may have been.
Right. Nowadays, I'd rather make the money to go on wonderful trips.
Yeah.
We always love traveling,
Yeah.
and travel is just so wonderful. I mean, we spent 3 weeks in Europe this summer again, which was just wonderful, and those memories will last forever. I mean, we bought some things, but those Gucci jackets and shoes in a season or two, they're going to be at the Goodwill.
And then you're never going to want it at some point.
But those memories from like our first trip together when my wife and I, when I turned 18, we went to Hong Kong. I can still picture every single bit of that trip, every moment. So that's what's important in life is love, relationships, kindness, and helping others and experiences.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent point. Great answer. Thank you very much. Please do find him. Please do check him out. Please do reach out to him. He is amazing. Like I said, we will be back. Thank you for the time and energy. Great interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Everyone,
Thanks,
for
everyone.
listening and watching. And we will see you all again next week. Bye, everybody.